Hola, I'm Claudia Romo Edelman.
And I'm Cynthia Kleinbaum-Milner.
And this is a podcast, A La Latina.
The playbook to succeed being your authentic self.
Today, Cindy Izzo.
Cindy is the global head of digital risk at KPMG International.
And these are the three key takeaways of this podcast. Number one, how Cindy, being the only one in her field, either in college or in her first job, immediately went to look for the Hispanic community to find that tribe in order to thrive.
And number two, how she realized, because she was told by her mentor, that she can't always be an A-plus player in everything she wants to do. Sometimes she is an A-plus at work and a B or a C at home. And then the next day, she's an A-plus at home or as a mom and a B or C player at work.
And number three, how she was a translator for her family from English to Spanish and actually acting as that, understanding the role that she played that gave her not only comfort, but understood that that was a role that she was able to play in other environments. All of that and more here at A La Latina.
Stick around. Before this episode starts, go to alalatina.com and sign up for our newsletter. We've put together a ton of career advice and worksheets that you can download to manage your career and get to the top in half the time
with half the bruises. A La Latina. Today, the incredible Cindy Izzo.
Cindy is the global head of digital risk for KPMG International, and she's in the corporate advisory board of Alpha National.
And we are so happy to see you and to have you with us. Cindy, what an honor.
Thank you so much. I'm so humbled and pleased to be here with you both today.
We have heard so much about you, but I don't know how much our audiences know you. So we'd like to get right in and get to know everything. What made you be who you are and what you do today? What's your background? What's your story?
So I owe a lot of who I am to my mom and to my nana, the strongest women I think I've ever known, who encouraged me and gave me the background and heritage to become who I am. I grew up in a very small Latino community in Arizona, right on the border of Mexico. I am first born here in the U.S. When I was little, none of my grandparents spoke English. Very few of my relatives spoke English. So from the time I could talk until I was in sixth grade, my parents and my grandparents would have me go with anybody who didn't speak English to the doctor, to the pharmacy, to the grocery store, so I could translate. So at a very early age, I became the translator and the one who was helping. It was also very important for my mom and for my family that I also spoke Spanish. And so for the first 5 years of my life, from kindergarten till I was in fifth grade, I went to school in Douglas, where I grew up. My nana would pick me up and my grandparents would drive me across the line to Mexico. And I'd go to school for 4 hours to learn how to write, read, and speak Spanish. So that way, I was able to, communicate with both of them, and just, it was just something that how I grew up. And it wasn't till I got to junior high in sixth grade where I said, I don't want to go to school at night.
Yeah, so you had no free time. That's your playbook to succeed is go to school in the morning and then go again to school in the afternoon.
That's right. But then in sixth grade, I was able to just go to school in the U.S. and play sports and be a little bit more normal. Mm-hmm. But I think by then I had really learned how important it was to know my role in my family. Right? Mm-hmm. There were always doctor's appointments where somebody couldn't speak English. So have Cindy go with them. Cindy can translate. And I think a lot of the Hispanic, Latino, Mexican culture is we all have roles to play in order to build up our family. It's very community driven. And I think that's how I've taken this forward in my own family, but also in my career. Mm-hmm. So every role that I've had, my team and building them up and moving up with me is extremely important to me, that we all understand how vital we are to each other's success.
So those values, community, responsibility, and understanding your role, how have they marked your life and what you do today?
I think that I never had the option to say, I'm not going to college, or I'm not going to do something that's going to better us, right? So that was instilled in me at a very early age. So knowing that I had to get good grades, knowing that I always had to take care of others, knowing that In order for me to be successful, there had to be successful people around me. I think that has actually helped me through my personal and professional career since I was younger, right? In college, the first thing I did was join a Hispanic network group, and because I wanted to be around other Latinos that might have been struggling with the same things I did. Now, the one thing I also think that helped me growing up in this small Latin community was it was predominantly Hispanic. So there wasn't a lot of diversity. I didn't even realize I was diverse until I was going to go to college, and my guidance counselor said, will you qualify for diverse scholarships? And you're a minority. And I didn't even know what that meant, but I was like, oh, free money for
Great.
college? Great. But didn't really have an understanding. Like I never felt like a minority. It wasn't until I got to college where I think I started to feel the label and people treating me differently than the entire time I grew up. So for 18 years, I didn't feel like a minority.
Yeah. And how was that? Where did you go to college? What
I
is
went
your
to
experience
Arizona
like?
State University. I think I was just a little bit more shell-shocked when I got there. Not only is it one of the largest universities in the US, but for me, the small sense of community that I had, there wasn't a lot of Latinos, there wasn't a lot of people speaking Spanish. That was really a big culture shock to me. Some of it was exciting and I got to meet a lot of new people, but that leaning on people and it being a group of people that make you successful had to kind of be rebuilt.
And can I ask a question that I should wait until the very end of the podcast to ask you, but I can't wait. So do you think that the role that you have managing global risk for one of the most important consulting companies in the world, being a Latina, do you think that you're getting there and that you're able to be successful in what you do because you never saw any discrimination, because you never saw your parents actually be discriminated against, because you never saw that entire, like that entire piece, and you were like, I'm like, this is the norm. Like,
Yeah, it's because I never felt like that. I don't go into a room thinking there's anything for me to overcome, right?
Wow.
You still don't? Like you never did after?
No, I did. Of course, once I got into my career, I think it was more gender based at that time because I'm in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And so most of my career in IT and in IT security has been predominantly males.
Totally.
And so my first, when I first started with KPMG, I was a director and my entire team doing IT audit, all of the directors, partners, and managers were men.
And they were like, wow,
And the
long
only other
nails,
woman-
manicure.
The only other woman was the admin. I felt scared. There was nobody there that looked like me. There were a couple of times where I had to kind of drive change in order to fit in a little bit. I'm happy to share about that. But back to your original question, I think the fact that I didn't realize I didn't come to the table like fully,
With a handicap. You'd never felt that
I
there
didn't
was
have
something.
a handicap, so I came just as myself. Hi, I'm Cindy, and these are my skills, and this is what I can, do. The other thing that's really, when you talk about that, it's not only like self-awareness, but I've been asked to do a lot of roles that sometimes I'm like, I'm not qualified, or why are they asking me to do that? And I have a little bit of,
Imposter syndrome?
imposter syndrome, a lot of like, am I qualified? I start questioning myself. But what I've learned is they wouldn't have asked me if someone around me isn't going to be there to support me in those moments. And so learning to lean in to those fearful moments and in that imposter syndrome, I think is something that I've done significantly now in my career, that it feels a little bit more normal than it did maybe 10 years ago.
Cindy, so you and I met in a panel, like two months ago?
Yes. And we were just like kindred spirits at
Yes,
this
yes.
panel.
But, I mean, I saw you and you struck me as someone that was unapologetically yourself. You struck me as someone that says, this is who I am and I have many, many aspects of myself. Were you always like that?
No, there was a lot of aspects early in my career that I hid, especially when I was first starting my career. One of the things that I love to do is, wear bright colors, wear fantastic, colorful shoes, high heels, have my nails done. Going into the Big Four, it's very reserved. It's, blue suits, black suits, hair pinned up.
You were like that?
When I first started, yes, it was, I mean, I was 22 years old and trying to fit into an environment that I had knew nothing about. My parents were all about go to college, go to college, go to college, but no one really taught me like what to become after that.
How to navigate.
How to navigate, what to study, what did I want to do.
Wow.
So how did you make these decisions? I mean, you've been at KPMG your entire career, right?
No,
You were in a different consulting firm, right?
I started as right out of college at Arthur Andersen.
Yes.
Yes, but
Okay.
yeah, so I started with the Big Four. I left there for a startup and then came
And then
back
you
to
came
Big
back
Four.
to another
Yeah.
Big Four.
Yeah.
So how did you decide what to study, and who told you go to a Big Four and it's gonna kind of be a good decision?
So that was kind of, sometimes I think the universe takes care of you. By the time I had gotten to go to college, I had realized everybody had said, get a business degree, get a business degree. You can't go wrong with a business degree. And so I got to college and I had decided, I had seen a movie and I had decided I wanted to be a stockbroker.
Wall Street? Which movie
Wall
did you
Street,
see?
I don't remember.
No,
Oh,
it's
no,
okay.
the one with Michael Douglas.
Yeah, Wall
yes,
Street. That's what I'm saying.
And I just was like, oh, I think I want to do that. That sounds exciting. And I want to move to New York. And here I was, have never left the state of Arizona. That was the path I wanted to take. So I started taking finance classes and accounting classes and thinking I was going to go down that path. I ended up liking my accounting classes a little bit more. Just so happened as I was in this organization, the Hispanic organization at the college, they had a job fair and the Big Four were there. And I met a couple of people. And one of the recruiters just kind of started telling me about the company and the way you could move in the career and how there could be travel. And I connected more with her than the company. And for the next 2 years, every time they came, she kind of reached out to the point where I did an internship with them. And I felt comfortable and like they had picked me and I picked them and I went to go work for them. It was like I had no idea what I was getting into at that time. And that's why I say sometimes I think universe, God, there's like a path that you're supposed to take and you just have to kind of be a little open to it.
What does a company, one of these Big Four, what do they do?
So the Big Four typically have an accounting and audit, right? So they're audit practice, a tax practice, and a consulting practice.
Okay.
And when I started with Arthur Andersen, I was on the audit side. I was on the audit and accounting side, and I did that for 3 months. And I went to my performance manager and I said, I love this company. I love being here. I hate what I'm doing.
At 3 months,
I knew that I did not want to sit here and tick and tie and reconcile documents. There was just and I just told them. And they said, well, we can move you to the consulting side and you can use your finance and your accounting background to in another capacity. And so I was like, oh, that sounds great. So they let me move over and do a rotation in that part of the business. And I loved it. My first role when I was over there was being the process communicator between the accountants and the technologists, which goes back to like translation again, right? So here I was now, I understood finance and accounting. I understood what the accounting people were trying to build when they were building a finance and accounting system. And the technologists didn't really understand them, but I could kind of connect the dots for both of them. And I felt that really rewarding. So interacting with people, solving the problem, understanding the process, and being able to help connect individuals that don't speak the same language is where I kind of found a niche.
Your role.
Yeah. And it goes back to, when I think about it, to the role I had had since I was like probably 5 years old. And it made me happy. And it made me feel fulfilled, right? Because this is how I did my part. And so I ended up doing that for quite some time.
I want just to pause because something struck me of what you said about that. It's almost like the trust and the confidence that you had about, like, I don't know this job, but someone will help me figure it out. So many of us do not have that confidence and do have a major imposter syndrome, maybe because we haven't had that support system growing up. It's almost like the role that we play as Latino mothers with our children and the role that our parents played with us goes way back, way further than only telling us, like, do better and you have a responsibilities. That level of trust that allows you to being able to do things like what you have done, which is going to, spaces like STEM and IT and global risk and things that, like are dramatically big.
This role, I mean, I had a mentor for 10 years who was the global head of risk manage, like all of the risk of KPMG, just not the digital risk, but all the risk. And he called me up and said, hey, we really need some help. And me, I've been a partner in the advisory side, selling services to clients and, being in the market and doing it. He's like, we really need a global head. And I'm like, what? Like, this isn't anything I've ever done or been internal. And he's like, well, will you interview and you'll have support? And so it took me a little bit to even be like, is it something I want to do? Can I even do that? It was a lot of imposter syndrome, but I met with people and I communicated with people, and I knew that Ed wouldn't have put me in a position where he didn't think I could succeed. And if I was feeling like I couldn't, I could call him and he'd bring people around me because what I've realized is, even for myself, when I recommend or support somebody to get into a position, I am not going to let them fail, right? Because
it's your name.
It's your name. So what I've realized now is that when you get those opportunities, somebody's putting their name up for you, because you have to have sponsorship from individuals. And if at any time I feel like I'm not succeeding, I can lean on them and be like, hey, because we've all been there when we don't know how to do something. And that's how we learn. And we all make mistakes. Like, I've made plenty of mistakes in my career and had somebody there. And it's what you do with those mistakes and how you move forward and how you say, well, I'm not going to do that again. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to tell the next 10 people below me what just happened to me, even though it might be embarrassing, make me feel dumb. But if it happened to me, let's make sure it doesn't happen to somebody else. And I think that's another huge point, is just in bringing people up, right? Is just sharing the knowledge of your, not only like your successes, but your losses and your failures.
I feel like I'm going to venture to say that a part of your success, it's because those around you want you to succeed. Because I get the sense that you have a lot of sponsors in your organization.
Yeah, I feel like I do. I treat everyone how I'd like to be treated, and I treat us as a team. Mm-hmm. And if I have high energy, and I try to make everybody feel like excited about what we're doing. And, if I'm going to move up, you're going to move up, and the people above me see that I can motivate my teams. And a lot of times, you hear a lot like, oh, professional, personal. I am truly, for the longest time when I was in cyber, they used to call me Mama Bear, because I would treat everybody like, family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lead like a mother.
Lead like a mother. I have 4 daughters, 2 grandchildren. And so.
You're not serious.
Yes.
You are not serious. Okay, this is a podcast. So people that are not seeing the video are not seeing that my jaw is on the floor, because you look like, probably the age of your daughter. Which I have no idea what it is, but it's ridiculous. What?
Yeah, I have 4 daughters, 2 grandchildren, and a lot of the girls that I met, I have probably.
I want to look like you, and I want to be like you. No. Okay, all right, let's stop.
So let's talk about your journey. I do remember you were talking in the panel about how you were building your career at the same time that you were building your family. Mm-hmm. So can you walk us through the key moments of your career? Like, what was going on, what decisions
and who gave you permission to have kids when you were 2 years old?
So I graduated from university with a 2-year-old. So I married my high school sweetheart. It was really difficult. My first day at Arthur Andersen, I showed up all but 23 years old, right? 22, 23, who knows now. And the HR woman came out and said, here's your ticket. That's a banker box full of binders that you need to read. You need to be at the airport in 6 hours because you have an audit starting in California and you won't be home for 2 weeks. That was my first day.
And you had a 2-year-old.
And I had a 2-year-old in daycare. And I just stood there. So what did I do? I called my mom. I said, Mom, and she lived 4.5 hours away. She was still in Douglas. And I said, Mom, they want me to go to California for 2 weeks. Brittany's at the daycare. I had no idea. I wanted to cry, because here I was starting my dream job, my first day, and they want me to leave for 2 weeks. My mom said, I'll be up there in time to pick her up. I'm going to take, time off, and I'll watch her till you get back. But you can't not do this, Cindy. I had never left my 2-year-old before.
Oh my.
So, and I was just out of college. So it was kind of like somebody just threw me into the deep end of the tub or the pool, and I needed to figure out how to sink or swim and pull from my entire network. My mom, of course, being the main one to help me get through these next 2 weeks. But that's how my career started with Arthur Andersen. I hadn't told anybody, right, that I had a baby, so nobody knew, because it's not something that you share like during an interview when you're in college, and it's not something you share when they hand you a ticket your first day of work. So I don't even think I shared it for like 6 months. That when it finally got to the point where I was like, I can't be gone for 4 weeks. Like, I have a child, and people were like, what?
Wow.
But again, it's some of those things that you just don't share right away, especially when you're not comfortable. You're just started a new job. So I was with Arthur Andersen for 4 years. By this point, like,
You had 3 kids?
I had 2 kids, and 3 of the female partners that I worked for were leaving to start a company. And as they were leaving the firm, they said, do you want to come and be employee number 5? And I was like, oh my God, do I leave the stability and all of this here to go to potentially become a millionaire in the next 5 years if everything works out? I eventually decided to jump and go with them. We started a company called Leap Source, where I was like employee number 5. I had stock and everything, and I was all but like 26. So very excited. My role again was to go to companies across the US and look at their finance and accounting operations and figure out how we could do it better, faster, cheaper by outsourcing on a shared platform. So pretty much like the first kind of shared service center models back in the mid 90s. And again, here I was going to clients, figuring out what they did, coming back to our team and telling them how we could do it. So again, a lot of translation back and forth. And I loved the role. Again, the company was doing really well, and it was probably 3 years into it that the dot-com crash hit, and the VC that funded us lost all its money. And overnight, we were gone.
And your stock was worth 0.
My stock was worth nothing. One of those partners ended up coming to KPMG, and she's like, once she got her job, she's like, you need to come work for me. I need someone to come, help me run and get business. And so I did that with Julie for a few years before I took a job with KPMG in Boston. So she was in California, and KPMG was looking for IT people that had audit backgrounds that could come to Boston and support the new Sarbanes-Oxley Act. So I hadn't really done IT audit before, but I had done audit and I was doing IT.
For like 3 months and you hated it,
Yeah,
but you were like,
exactly.
I've done it.
So here I go. I moved across the country to
Now
Boston.
you have your 4 girls.
No, I still have my 2.
Okay.
And I moved to Boston, and I go to the office here, and now I'm in IT audit, learning Sarbanes-Oxley, dealing with all of the financial
I
institutions.
have no idea which words you're saying. Dealing with what?
Sarbanes-Oxley is a regulation that came out in like the 2007s that needed to have certain types of audits performed in IT. And so it was new.
It was because of the dot-com crash?
It was just a new regulation that came out just to make sure that we understood how companies were tracking some of their IT systems, at moments in time to protect information. And so I did this when I came here, didn't know anybody. I was a director. This is when I met my partners and my managers and my whole team. And the only other female was the admin besides me at that level. California to Boston, big change.
Yeah.
Working for 3 women that had children, coming to an environment with 2 male partners, that big change, just the whole culture. And I got here and in Boston, and I was just, people would work from 7 to 10 o'clock at night in the office, and it was all about where you went to college and who you knew. And I didn't know anyone, and it was difficult, and part of my job was to sell work. And so again, I went to my foundation and I went to United Way's job board for like charity work, and I applied for a few charities. Within a week I had a woman call me. Her
To
name.
do volunteering work or
Yeah.
to leave KPMG?
No, to try to get onto a board,
Network.
to network and to find ways to get into the community. Because when I told people I
Okay,
went
okay.
to ASU, they were like, "Oh, you didn't go to one of the Ivy Leagues out here." It was just like,
Yeah.
it was very parochial. I felt in Boston, it was hard for people to let you in if they didn't know who you were.
Yeah.
So I met a woman through the Girl Scouts. She was the chairman of the board, and we met for a coffee. And she liked me. She added me to the board. Come to find out, she was the ex CFO of Verizon and Houghton Mifflin, and now as she retired, she was the chairman of the board for the Girl Scouts. And
She was Latina or no?
she was not Latina, but she became a good mentor for me. I always tell people she gave me the playbook for my life. Because like 6 months into this whole moving here, having the girls with me, I had recently gotten remarried, and we were all kind of here now and didn't really have a network. And I had just started a new job where it was very different than in Arizona. I remember meeting Gail one day, and she's like, "How are things going? How are you, getting through everything?" And I just started crying. And I said, "I'm missing my kids' soccer games. I'm, always working. My house is a disaster. Like, I'm really struggling to like
up.
make this all work. Like, it's just too much." And she just kind of shook her head and she nodded and she goes, "Cindy, you strike me as someone who always got straight A's and excelled and was involved in everything." And I was like, "Yep." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm here to tell you that from now on, going forward, you're going to be average. You're going to be a C." And I just remember looking at her and being like, "What? What are you saying to me?" Like, just kind of not understanding. And she's like, "I spent a long part of my life feeling how you're feeling now until I realized that I'm not going to be an A in everything. And it's how I run my life that matters." And she goes, "So on the day that you leave early to go be at your daughter's soccer game, you're going to be probably a C player at work, a B wife, but an A mom. And on the day that you work till 10 o'clock to get that proposal out the door or to meet a client need, you're going to be an A at work, but you're going to probably be a B wife and a C mom. And the one day that you clean your house, you're going to be an A wife, or listen to your husband complain about something. You're going to be an A, wife, but you're probably going to be a B or a C mom or worker." She goes, "But knowing when to be present and knowing when you need to be an A is what you need to realize now, because there's no way anyone can be an A in all of
Everywhere.
those roles every single day." And I just remember feeling a sense of relief because no one had ever said this to me,
And choice.
and a sense of like, wow, like. And then she's like, "Now, have you communicated to your leadership that you want to leave?" And I'm like, "No." "Have you mentioned to people what you need and how you want your workday to go?" "No." "Well, when are you going to speak up for yourself?"
Yeah.
And so not only did she give me the one advice where I was like, "Oh my God, I have a choice and I can be an A here and there. And I can take this pressure off that everything has to be cleaned and I have to be perfect." But I went to my boss and I said, I have 2 children at home. I can't continue to be here till 10 o'clock at night. I will definitely give you 110%, but I need to be home by 5:30, make dinner, help with homework, get them ready for bed. And I'm happy to continue on to work to meet my goals and deadlines, but I can't do it here. And I'd like to, like 3 times a week, be able to drive my kids to school. So I'm not going to come in until 8:30. I'm not going to be. And he just said, "Okay." He said, "Okay, thanks for letting me know."
Had you already built some reputation with him that he was okay with it?
Well, I had been there for 6 months, right? So he had seen my performance, but in those 6 months, I hadn't said one word.
You were struggling and crying and
Yeah.
getting crazy when you could have said day one.
Day one, I could have provided my story or what I needed in this relationship as an employer and an employee, where I just chose to
No.
feel like have imposter syndrome. I don't belong here. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm new to this group. I have to follow what everybody else is doing. But when I spoke to them, it was just like, okay. That also led to other people being like, oh my God, what, you can do that. And I'm like, yeah. Another example was this group would always do like a happy hour on a Thursday night. And I once said, like, I'm going to bring my spouse. And they're like, we don't bring spouses. And I'm like, well, why not? So I brought my spouse. And then everybody started bringing their spouses. And so it's like, no one complained. I kind of always felt a little uncomfortable being at the bar with 20 men and me. And so I brought my husband. But then what I noticed is other men brought their wives now. And it became not so much like exclusion of the spouses. And I think the spouses really appreciated being able to get to know others. So I got better as I kept progressing in my career, speaking my mind about what I needed or what I thought we should do.
Which is not very Latino, I have to say, because we're taught calladita te ves más bonita, don't rock the boat. All those cultural barriers that tell you, assimilate, comply.
Which I did, right? Which I did, but then once Gail was this white woman who had been a CFO was like, use your voice, tell them what you need. They need you as much as you need them. I kind of felt like I had permission. Right? Like I needed someone. And being from a family who none of my parents were in a career, right? So don't know how to navigate. So it took someone, I think I needed her to kind of help me understand what I could and couldn't do because I didn't know anything. Yeah.
And so when you felt comfortable, did you start being more your Latina self? Because you said that you were like in a corporate environment, everybody was like gray suits and no manicure and so on. And like, how did that transformation or being more free with your Latinidad happened?
So I actually joined Alpha in Boston back in 2005. And I realized that there was a huge community of Latinas, Latinos just like me that were dressed in color, that had the shoes, who were being, our proud selves and I was inspired and I felt like, oh my God, there are people that look like me here and I can bring this to my work. And so I started slowly. I started wearing a lot of red. I started wearing, different color shoes. And people would notice and sometimes people would comment. I had some people who would make remarks, about her heels are so high or whatever. And I'm like, they're in style. Like this is the style. But I think I started to help others at my firm also feel like they could do it. And by this time I was like a managing director already. So one step away from being partner. So I was way more comfortable being that role model than trying to find a role model.
Do you think that there's so much that I have read about like this entire, particularly in a time of the EI, being challenged and so on, the entire being your authentic self and bringing yourself at work, that is related to when in your career to do it? Is it actually not prescriptive for like people that are starting, but you have to conform a bit more, learn a bit more? How do you see that, and what advice would you give to young Latinas?
I mean, if I could go back and look at it, I think I would have brought more of myself. I think it has to do with more how confident you are within yourself to bring that. I also think that, 92 to today, the acceptance rate of like bring your whole self to work is so much different than when I started my career.
Well, it's going backwards now.
Let's hope not.
Yeah.
I keep hoping that that's not going to happen, but I do believe that there, like even our company is more bring your whole self to work, and it's a lot more open to that. I think that's an individual choice as to how much you want to assimilate when you first start, as to when you're ready to bring yourself out, right? It's like that personal choice as to how comfortable are you in your own skin.
Do you become more productive and better at performance when you're able to bring your whole self to work? Do you feel that you've been more productive or more,
when I
better performer when you embrace yourself?
When I embrace myself and I bring all of Cindy to the table, the funny one, the Latino one, the one that's proud, the one that's excited,
The one that leads like a Latin,
the one
like
that
a mother,
leads like a mother.
translates.
I feel that my clients actually like me more than when I come with a script and I'm trying to be something I'm not. I think one of the reasons I've been so successful with my clients is I'm empathetic and I listen and I try to think about how I would solve this problem if I were in their shoes. And I also, for me, it's really important as Latinos to build that relationship. I want to know about you. I want to know about your kids. I want to know about your life. I want to find those connections. Like, I can't do that if I'm not being myself, right? Because that all is innate to you. So I think I probably brought some of that with me, especially since I was doing the translation. But now I don't think I could ever not be my full self at work. Like I wouldn't, if KPMG did not allow me to be my full self, I don't think I'd be there.
As you tell us your story, you were like younger than 30, you had two little kids, you were divorced, you were remarried, moving to a new city where like it was a lot. And I think a lot of people would have just not been able to get up and keep running. And you not only got up, but super succeeded. So I want to try to understand how, like, what is it about you that made you stand out? Because one of the reasons why they're called the Big Four is because there's a lot of people in them. And how many people work in KPMG?
Oh my God. Hundreds and globally,
Yes.
hundreds and thousands.
Okay, so I'm going to venture and say that you're at the less than 1% at the top, right? So how did somebody that had so many circumstances against her, like you didn't have the wind behind your back, you had the wind in front of you. How did you make it to where you are?
The first thing I'm going to say is faith. So I firmly believe that God had a plan for me. And so people always like take credit for everything you've done. I take credit for what I've done, but I also believe I could not have done it without the faith and hope that God and my family had in me. I feel
Well,
like
it
my
doesn't
family's
matter
up
if it's
there.
true or not true with faith, right? As
Yeah.
long as you believe it.
Yeah.
Then if you believe that God had a plan for you and that even though there was a wind ahead of you, you had God behind you,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what's true.
I tell people all the time, the universe is abundant. And as long as you're open to what it wants to give you, you will succeed. Whenever, one of the things at KPMG is you've got partners and teams and everybody's trying to get sales, right? Sales and build their books of business. And so a lot of times you see a little bit of, is that who gets that sale for that? And I'm always like, guys, just share it. The pie gets bigger the more we work together. The universe is abundant. It wants all of us to succeed. There's not limited seats at any table. Just be open to the abundance that the universe has to give and have faith. I've been super lucky. The only time I looked for a job was when I started with Arthur Andersen, because then I was recruited to LeapSource, and then I was recruited to KPMG, and then within KPMG, I've been asked to do several roles. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
It's
But
been.
why? Because if you think about a client services, clients usually want somebody that looks like them to be managing them. So I can't imagine that many of your clients at KPMG looked like you. So why did they want to work with you?
A lot of my clients were CISOs, right? Men.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I would bring is that opposing kind of viewpoint that they didn't have. A lot of times, too, when I was brought in, there was tremendous stress on these individuals that they weren't meeting a regulation or they had just been breached or something big had happened. And so they're in a high stress. I come in with a very calm type of nurturing, playbook. Like, let's talk about it. Let's figure out how we can fix it. And just kind of, I try to take on some of what they're feeling. I believe I'm an empath, so I'm able to kind of, understand and feel how people are feeling and try to figure out how I can best help them. And I think that a lot of times with these men that I was working for really couldn't see the sides of the situation that I could see as a woman. And so a lot of my clients were in FS, in the financial services, and they knew each other. And so if there was a problem at this bank and I was helping them successfully, somebody might recommend me to someone at another bank that was.
So that's what happened. They started recommending.
Yeah.
So if I hear you correctly, or I'm just maybe paraphrasing or analyzing it for my own understanding, but when things are going well, you can have a room of people that think like you and everybody's in agreement. But when things are going bad, that's when you really need somebody with a different perspective.
Yes, I think you always need a ton of perspectives, but especially what I would call in a crisis or in this type of, stressful situation, the person needs different viewpoints.
Maybe you're more open to a different perspective.
Exactly. But I also think that women bring a different type of skill set than men do to stressful situations. And I think been called in a lot during what I would call crisis management. A lot of this might have to do with because I experienced so much in my early life of crisis management. So I carried it onto my work. And so I don't tend to get overly excited about a crisis. I'm able to kind of take note and say, okay, here's the 10 things we need to do calmly and collectively to move forward. And I think I provide comfort and a sense of like, okay, we've got this now. And a sense of you're not alone now. We're going to figure this out together, which I think a lot of people need when they're in that type of, mode.
So I have two questions. You've been in corporate America for for a bit. You are a Latina.
Yes.
In a very male-dominated world as well. What are the things that you would like for companies and also for Latinas to flip the script? For example, you said, I lead like a mother. And that means that you build teams, but maybe in corporate America, that is understood as like, oh, you're so caring about your family, you're not going to come and work here. So when you flip the script, you're like, no, family-oriented means I can lead like a mother, building team. So what are those things that you would like for both corporate America, but also for Latinas themselves to know, like, hey, flip the script, girls?
I truly believe that being nurturing or motherly would be like the other comment, being emotional or empathic to others are characteristics that we really have. I also think that as a nurturer, you can see when people are successful and when people make mistakes. And as like a mother would be like, okay, you made a mistake. There's a way to deal with that. It's a really good way to allow people to fail without making them feel like they're unworthy. Those things I feel Latinas do because we are compassionate. We're passionate. If we could bring that to work to build our teams, and if other Latinas could look at themselves and say, those are my strengths. The Empress card in the tarot deck. This is a hobby of mine, but when an Empress, and I also do astrology, but the Empress card in the tarot deck represents like the ultimate queen mother of nurturing, support, courage, having her pentacles or her money, and she sits there calmly holding it all as she supports everyone else. And so for me, I always say I want to come to the table as the queen or as the empress because she embodies all of the other queens, right? Which represent emotions and passion and different aspects of divine female energy. And so I would challenge every Latina to embrace that nurturer in herself, that courageous person, that compassionate person, and bring it to work. Because it can only make you a better human being when you're working with people above you, below you, or at your side.
I have a last question for Empress Cindy. Gail gave you her playbook.
Yes.
I want Empress Cindy to give the playbook to our audience.
So I still live by Gail's, right? So that is something I do is like, I am a C, but I know when I need to be an A. The other thing that I tell all of my mentees is don't be afraid of your failures, right? You're gonna fail. We're gonna make big mistakes. And it's what you do from those. A lot of times I know some of the biggest mistakes I made, I was afraid to tell anybody. And it wasn't until I told somebody that I could recognize how to fix and how to make sure I didn't do it again. The other thing, looking back on my career now, is I was always in a huge hurry. So every time I got to the next level, I was already preparing for the next level and the next level. And I really didn't spend enough time like really enjoying my success. I just brushed past it and didn't really absorb it or say, hey, great job, Cindy. Like, oh my God, I'm so proud of us. Like, didn't do a lot of that. And looking back on it, I mean, I feel like I could have done that a little bit more to just care for myself more, be more gentle with myself, be more loving. It's something that I try to do a lot more now, is just, absorb the wins, have the compassion and the gentleness with myself, and also just, take the time to smell the roses.
Amazing. Well, Empress Cindy, thank you so very much for your words, for your wisdom, for your vulnerability as well, sharing it with us.
So happy to be here with you
It was
guys.
great to get to know you much more. Thank you for agreeing to come here.
And honestly, with that, I hope that with your playbook and everything you shared with us, our audience is going to be able to lead and succeed.
A la Latina!
A La Latina.